Parents of TikTok, what is the creepiest thing your kid has ever said to you? So this morning, I take my 4-year-old to the doctor. He had an ear infection a couple of weeks ago. We went in for a follow-up. Everything's okay. As we are leaving, we pass a couple of wheelchairs in the lobby. And my 4-year-old looks at them and says, "I've never used a wheelchair." And I say, "Well, your legs work just fine. You don't need a wheelchair." And my 4-year-old says, in his perfectly innocent 4-year-old voice, "After our car accident, I'll need a wheelchair."
My oldest child wakes me up in the middle of the night and tells me about this horrifying dream that she just had, where a massive demon is straddling her and has these 2 fingers that are 9 inches long, and they are on fire, and he is trying to, how she described it, claw the life out of her. And she was able to escape her bed and wake up and come tell us. Well, later that day, my second oldest comes and tells me he had the same frickin' dream. So I'm going through their room, praying over their space and praying over their bed, and both of their pillows have massive, seared, singed claw marks through them. Literally parallel. Both of their pillows. When I tell you, I about burnt my house down.
Okay, so for those of you who know or don't know, we live in a very old house. We live in a house that was built in 1919, so very old. I can tell you about a few occasions. One's happened with my daughter and one's happened with my son. And my son is 6 years old, so it actually just happened. So we were getting ready for bed, and my son comes downstairs and he goes, "Hey Mom, there's somebody standing in our bedroom." And I go, "What do you mean?" And he's talking about my room. And he goes, "Yeah, it's like a tall guy, but he doesn't look like a person. He looks like a shadow, but not on the wall." When I tell you, I prayed to Jesus real quick. Oh yeah, I got more. It's spooky time. We had some friends buy an old farmhouse. Their kid was 2, maybe 3 at the time, and he had a really hard time sleeping in his new room, and he would always end up in his parents' room at night. We went to visit. When we got back in the car, my youngest, who was 3 or 4 at the time, said, "Mommy, I don't want to come back. The woman with the red eyes is really scary." "What woman with the red eyes?" "The woman with the red eyes sitting in the kid's bed, pointing, saying they wanted to go home." I called my friend and I said, "I know why your kid doesn't want to sleep in their room." So many stories.
I have so many of these, but this one is by far the creepiest one. So when my son was about 3 years old, I was changing his diaper in my bedroom the one day. And he told me, he was like, "Mom, there's a man with black eyes standing behind you." And I was just like, okay. It's like I look over my shoulder and of course nothing is there. And I'm just like, jokingly, I was just like, "Well, there better not be a man with black eyes standing behind me, or else I'm going to be performing an exorcism up in here." Said it as a joke. He's 3. He's not going to know what an exorcism is. And he just says, he's just like, "Mom, he's screaming at you. He's screaming at you."
When my son was 4, he would always tell me that he wasn't from this planet. Oftentimes, I would find him visibly upset. And when asked why, he would say, "Because I'm not from this planet." When he was around 6, we had started talking about it one day, and I asked him to explain it to me, and he said that he isn't human. This is just the form he uses on this planet. And then he says that he chose me, exact words, he chose me as a vessel for his rebirth. And then followed it up with, "Sometimes I really miss home." He hasn't mentioned it in a while, but still to this day it creeps me out thinking about it.
This trend belongs to my aunt, but she's not on TikTok, so here you go. My mom and I were moving into a new house, so my aunt and my cousin came to help us. After making a few trips inside, my 6-year-old cousin takes a seat on a stump in the front yard. He then turns and looks at the three of us out of the blue and says this place was built on an Indian burial ground. Once he saw the looks of "what the fuck" set into all three of our faces, he then began to hysterically cry and ran to my aunt. Looking back, we really should have loaded our shit back up and left. For the following 12 months, my sister was thrown down the stairs. I had a very large something get in my bed with me. I had a big green head floating outside my window. The fabric, non-electrical angel on our Christmas tree caught fire. We had a random message pop up on our answering machine of a mother beating her daughter with no missed calls on any of the caller IDs. Long story short, we ended up going to the local library and finding out it was built on a burial ground.
So this is more a nonverbal communication, but when my son was 8 months old, he and I were at lunch alone together at this diner. And then we had this male server. He was a little bit older, Caucasian guy, seemed really normal, polite, but my son would freak out. Like he'd never freaked out like this before. Freaking out every time the guy came by our table. Ultimately, I had to leave the restaurant because he just could not be around this person. A month later, that person made the front page and was arrested on multiple accounts of child molestation.
When my son was about 3 years old, we were sitting down one night reading a bedtime story. My husband was not going to be home until pretty late that night from work. And as we're reading our story, my son looks out the window and says, "Mom, Dad's home." I look out the window, the dogs hadn't barked, the light's not on. And I said, "No, Dad's not home yet." And he said, "No, Daddy is right outside." And he's staring at the window and saying he's right there. And he's so angry at me that I won't let Dad inside the house. And so I look out the front window and I walk into my bedroom and I look out the slider thinking maybe one of the neighbors had come by, which would be really unusual because we did live in the country at this time and our closest neighbor was about a quarter mile down the road, but things happen. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was safe. Look out there, nobody's out there. And I'm telling him there's nobody outside. Dad's not going to be home until late. And he is adamant that no, Dad is outside. You need to let him in. And he's getting really upset. So I turn on the lights outside. I walk out there with him. There's nobody out there. And he describes, Dad is out there. He's in the red shirt. Dad is out there. You need to let him in. And I look at him and I'm like, Dad didn't wear a red shirt to work today. He wore his white shirt and his jeans. And he was just beside himself, angry at me that I was keeping Dad outside. Fast forward a few days, I had told my husband about this story. He was doing a search on his biological father. Now, mind you, they had never met. He's never seen a picture of him. We have no idea really what he looks like or much about him at all. During the search, we find out that his biological father had passed away around the time that my son had said that there was somebody outside. Now, the strange thing is that my husband doesn't really look like his mom. They have obviously similar characteristics, but we were really curious to know what his dad looked like because there's not a whole lot of similar facial features between my husband and his mom. I don't know what your beliefs are as far as the afterlife and spiritual realm go, but I definitely think that we had a visitor that night, and I think that my son saw his grandfather.
Well, so first of all, I want to start by saying I think I have 2 reincarnated babies. Cario is a grown ass old ass man out here. But Lena, she's only 3. And she says some creepy shit. And when she comes to my house, when she's not with her father, if y'all been following me, y'all know the signs. Y'all be knowing what the fuck be going on in this motherfucking house. But when she's here, the water turns on by itself. She cannot reach the sink. One time we woke up at the same exact time. It was 3:33 in the morning. And her eyes they was just open for like 2 seconds. And she was like, Mommy, look, she pointed to the corner. Bitch, I saw it. I tried to turn over. I played sleep. I was like, yeah, baby, it's okay. Go to sleep. So then, okay, check me out. Not too long ago, she came up with this new thing. And I don't want to say it too many times because the way she expressed herself and asked me not to say it and her uncle, I was scared as fuck. But it's Chi Chi Boom Boom or Boom Boom Chi Chi. She said either way. And once you say it too many times, she say, no, Mommy, don't say it no more. No, Mommy, don't say it no more. And I be like, why, Lena? I wish she could explain to me, baby, why can't Mama say that? I don't want to because I don't want to summon nothing. I don't know what the fuck that mean. I haven't heard it on any of their cartoons, none of the YouTube shit they be watching, because I be trying to listen. Nothing. What the fuck is a boom boom chi chi and the chi chi boom boom? Like, you cannot say it repeatedly. Like, me and Andrew was taking turns, and she was like, no, Mommy, stop! She 3. Who the fuck is that? And what the fuck is in my house? I'm finna move anyways, because I ain't scared of them. But, I'm a little bit on the darker side, and I don't even play like that. You feel me? Like, what was that? I will never forget that. Y'all, if I'm lying, I'm flying. It was something up there. And then not too long after that, she was her shenanigans. It's okay, because we for the move. So anyways, y'all have a good day.
So this one right here, she's been talking about someone named Hannah. Thought she was just talking about her cousin. She talks about how Hannah plays with her, and she loves Hannah. And then one day, she told me that Hannah was in the bathtub. And I was like, girl, your cousin is not in the bathtub. But she was for certain. She took me in the bathroom and she looked in the bathtub and she told me that Hannah was in the bathtub. And then it got me thinking and creeped me out. When I was little, I had an imaginary friend named Hannah, and we ended up having to sage our house because of her. I live 5 houses down from where I grew up.